for Christ, the astonishing leader of Christmas. Perhaps at street level, we're not living for the glory of God at all. So writes Paul David Tripp in his Christmas Advent devotional called Come, Let Us Adore Him. He said that perhaps in ways we're not conscious of, we have shrunk life down to the size of our own glory. Maybe it really is true that somehow, some way, sin makes us all glory thieves. He says we steal for ourselves what belongs to God. We put ourselves in God's place. Perhaps life really is one big, unending glory battle. It's because we would never, ever win this battle on our own that Jesus came. This is where we are confronted and comforted, he explains, by the glorious goodness of God and the radical humility of Jesus. He says that our God of infinite glory looked on glory thieves not with jealous derision, but with redeeming love. And because he did, watch this, he commissioned his son to leave his rightful glory position to become a servant even to death, so that you and I could be liberated, set free from the prison of self-glory that is the doom of every sinner. Not only that, but the saving work of Jesus, he explains that it unleashes God's glory onto us. As his children, we are showered with the glory of his forgiveness, the glory of his love, the glory of his wisdom, the glory of his power, the glory of his mercy, the glory of his sovereign rule, the glory of his wisdom, the glory of his power, and the glory of his promises, and the glory of his presence. And the showering of glory on us progressively, watch us, turns our hearts away from our individualistic commitment to our own glory. In other words, thinking that we are the big deal, that we are the center of the universe. Turns our hearts away from that to once again live for the thing for which we were created, the glory of God, which is defined as the internal reality and the external manifestation of the greatness of God in his infinite perfections. All of them. And really making manifest the godness of God. And where rubber meets the road, as it were, the rub, as it were, is such that our hearts rebel against this all-glorious reality. Because our hearts crave to live for ourselves, thinking that we are the big deal, we are the center of the universe. And the reason why the darkness that's out there hooks our hearts regularly is because of the darkness that's in our hearts, from which that we need to be rescued and liberated from, even as believers in Christ, positionally seated in the heavenlies in Christ Jesus. Blessed with every spiritual blessing in the heavenly places in Christ Jesus. But the tension between is what's been described as the already and the not yet is such that, yes, we're there, but we're still here in this world, dear ones. And just as Apostle Paul said, woe is me, or it says, who will deliver me from this body of death? And such that as we zero in on the book of Philippians this morning, on the threshold of a new year, yes, in the midst of, that old song, the 12 days of Christmas, kind of an in-betweeny type of year, unless we just take this season in stride and miss a capital opportunity to yearn for and hunger for and pray that God's Spirit would stir our hearts toward a spiritual revival, beginning with each of us, dear ones. And that pray and that God would use each of us to be a catalyst toward positive change by the mighty hand and outstretched arm of God in our homes, our families, our workplaces, our communities, our church, our respective arenas of influence as we look forward with fresh vision and vigor and vitality to a new year. Because God was faithful, and he will, and always evermore will be faithful, because Christ is the astonishing leader of Christmas. Because